1,500 troops being sent to the border to help 2,200 that are already there from National Guard. And President Trump has now announced through the administration that we are looking at putting in an additional 10,000 U.S. troops. This is something that the president has the power to do. The resource-wise, different than trying to go for the wall or changing immigration laws or changing definitions that might come under legal attack. Here is a commander-in-chief. If you believe that there's an emergency at the border, and of course we've talked about that. Remember the Biden administration never wanted to admit that this was actually a crisis. No, they had a crisis team inside the Department of Homeland Security. It's not the only way they want to deal with the problem, but these are the ways what you can do quickly as president that changes the kind of the scenario at the border immediately. I mean, just with these 10,000 additional troops, you think about the amount of border crossers that will be apprehended, but also the cartels are going to have a tougher time selling the idea of illegally crossing the U.S. border and then having people, give them their entire life savings and basically be trafficked by these cartels or indebted to them as slaves when they get to the U.S., or they are also being used as drug mules, bringing in the fentanyl that's killing Americans. They have to think twice now. The 1,500 troops were given 24 hours to deploy these additional troops to the border, then additional 10,000 troops, and all sorts of different kinds. So you've got intelligence troops to figure out, where the people are coming across, what the cartels are doing. And it is a massive change in policy on the southern border. Is it everything? No. Is it a huge start, though, in changing the security of the American people all over the country? Absolutely, because you have to do these things at the same time. You can't just go and focus on who's here illegally now and let that continue to happen, right? So if you deport one person, 4 more people come in illegally that day, you're not really changing the numbers at all. So you've got to do both. It's a big crisis that this administration isn't afraid to treat as an emergency. In fact, Will, that's how the president is able to send the troops. He had to declare it was an emergency. The Biden administration, that it was not in their political interest, I guess, even though that the American people understood what was happening across the country, not just in border states, but they wouldn't do it. And so they didn't give themselves the authority to put more security on the border. And that's because they've got leftists on that were pushing these basically open border, don't enforce the laws that we already have, and of course don't declare it an emergency, because that means you'd actually be sending troops down who would stop people coming in illegally.
And we were gaslighted by the administration for 4 years, saying that it wasn't a crisis, there wasn't an invasion, that the border was secure, when in reality, what you've seen since Monday, when you not just look at the border and these steps that he's taking to secure the border itself, the physical border, but Bill Malugin at Fox News put out last night that they've embedded with an ICE unit in Boston. So Northeast America, not anywhere close to the southern border. And they, just in the time they were reporting with them, witnessed 8 arrests, including multiple MS-13 members, Interpol red notices, murder suspects, and a volatile Haitian gang member with 18 convictions in recent years in the United States. And he yelled at the cameras, he ain't going back to Haiti, an expletive about Trump and Biden forever. They also witnessed what they called collateral arrests that weren't their target arrests of knowing where the violent criminals were, but people that were with the gang members that also were undocumented. So here's what it really shows me. One, about we knew that we were gaslighted by the Biden administration, but it wasn't just that they were incompetent and wouldn't do their job. The fact that ICE this quickly knows exactly where to go. I saw a report that they went to a prison in Colorado and picked up a illegal immigrant who had violent crimes against him that he was serving term for in prison. They went and picked him up, put him in ICE detention so they can start the deportation proceedings. Yeah. The fact is, not only did they let the border stay open, they knew where the bad guys were in our city. They knew where the people that committed crimes against American citizens, like Laken Riley, who was killed by an illegal immigrant who had charges against him. ICE knew where to go the whole time. Yeah. It tells me that that Secretary Mayorkas was rightfully impeached by the House of Representatives because they weren't doing their job. They knew where to go find the worst of the worst to get them out of our country, put them in ICE detention until they can go through the deportation hearings to get them out, and they refused to. That is so much worse than them just not doing their job. They had people that were doing their job, knew exactly where to go, and it only took a couple days for thousands of these people to be taken into custody by immigration services, by ICE. That is really, really devastating to the American people, that the Biden administration knew exactly where to go, and they did nothing. They didn't care about protecting Americans because of their political narrative. And now you see the left groups like the ACLU filing cases in federal court against the administration, trying to block Trump's expansion of fast-tracking deportations. They're trying to make it take more time when what right now, I wouldn't even say this is securing the border phase for President Trump. This is cleaning up the mess that is left to him by the Biden administration. And that's going to take a while, but that's also why it's important to do it in two parts. Send the ICE agents, go get the people you know where they are, but at the same time, get the National Guard, the military down to the border to secure it so that you're not playing catch up later.
This is to kind of clean up and just get you to square one so that you can then start looking at the policies that will really prevent the long-term policies, whether it's building walls in certain areas along the border where it's necessary and utilizing that equipment. That you've got to work with Congress on board. Is it that you need more people and you've got the military able and ready to be deployed within 24 hours? I mean, the fact is, it tells you a lot about the United States that a president can come in a few days, not even have a Secretary of Defense yet, and have 1,500 troops deployed to the border in 24 hours, and probably the additional 10,000 employed as not much longer than that once they put together what kind of troops they need and who is available for these deployments. And remember, it's not all the same kind of individual. So I think right off the bat, what you have to understand here is you've got an administration that wants to fight for you. They want to fight for the issues that you care about. What we have to make sure first is that they get their team in place so that while these announcements are being made and the left is saying, we're going to file the lawsuit here, we're going to file a lawsuit there, that the team is getting in place in Washington, D.C., and that we're getting prepared for what the ACLJ can do in response to it'll be a legal onslaught against most of the policies